Hey everybody, welcome to the 75th episode of MAME Politics. That's right, episode 75. It's grown quite big since our start in January. It's kind of crazy to think that it's almost up to episode 100. I'm very excited about it. I've had a history of not being able to follow through with things in my life. And I see this as actually one of my greatest accomplishments. So, thank you everybody for joining me here. Hey, Catherine, good to see you. Hey, LNF, good to see you. Hey, JNNX. Hey, David, good to see you guys. Good to see all y'all here. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm not centered. I'm like, oh, okay, there. That's better. So I had a hell of a time trying to figure this out today. I really wanted to play Mortal Kombat 4, which is arguably when Mortal Kombat really started to turn a lot of people off, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the franchise. And until Mortal Kombat 5 Deadly Alliance, which came out much later, they didn't really reinvigorate the franchise, and I don't even think that game necessarily brought the fire back like they were hoping it would, because as you know from my ranting and raving about Mortal Kombat and how much I love it, you already know that to me, Mortal Kombat 4 was sort of like the pinnacle of their gameplay in terms of like their dialed-in gameplay style. After that, Mortal Kombat 5 and after resorted to more of a Tekken sort of 3D game fighting gameplay style that Mortal Kombat never really resembled before. So, and it wasn't until games like Deception, Armageddon, Catherine, you just mentioned Deception, where they kind of tried to bring it back to the original Mortal Kombat formula, but they never really brought it fully back. They still were trying to play into that 3D sort of realistic feeling gravity 3D gameplay mode. And I would argue that Mortal Kombat 4, as silly as it is, as unrealistic as it is, and actually as terrible as it looks, because let's face it, Mortal Kombat 4, even for the time, was not graphically impressive. People were kind of like, what? Because one of the things about the previous 3 Mortal Kombat games was that, maybe with the exception of MK3, MK1 and 2 were like graphically mind-blowing when they came out. They were like very advanced, kind of ahead of most other things that existed at that time in terms of their presentation. Mortal Kombat 3 was, I would say, argue it was just as good as Mortal Kombat 2 in terms of graphics. So people were a little underwhelmed when it came out. They were thinking, oh, this looks just like Mortal Kombat 2. In fact, it actually, the sprites are smaller than Mortal Kombat 2. That was another thing people noticed immediately. If you look at a side-by-side actual arcade monitor, dedicated cabinet means the original factory video game cabinet that the arcade came in. That wasn't a converted cabinet. You look at it side-by-side with Mortal Kombat 2. Which video I posted earlier, Catherine? Oh, no, it's not. I mean, in terms of the graphics, look. In terms of the graphics, it's disappointing. Because these guys were 2D artists. They didn't have, let's just say they didn't have the best 3D graphics people in like the video game industry working for them at the time. That wasn't where their skill set was. So I love Mortal Kombat 4. I think that it is it's very overlooked. It's very underrated. And I think that it's very unfairly panned. And I would say, as terms of a 2-player fighting game, it's one of the best ones ever made. In terms of the intensity, the power dynamics, they added weapons to Mortal Kombat 4. So in Mortal Kombat 4, you can actually pull out a weapon. Every character has one. And as soon as you get hit, you lose the weapon. And you have to pick it back up to hit your opponent with it. Same thing happens to your opponent. If they lose their weapon, they have to pick it back up again. But what's cool is you can actually pick up your opponent's weapon and use it against them. So that's like a whole new dynamic that they actually added to Mortal Kombat 4. And what's funny is they actually stole that from a game that was a ripoff of Mortal Kombat 2 called Bloodstorm. That there was a lot of contention between Midway and the people who made Bloodstorm because Bloodstorm actually stole away Daniel Pesina. I believe it was Daniel Pesina, the guy who played Johnny Cage. They stole him away as an actor, threw him inside of an advertisement for Bloodstorm, saying this is better than Mortal Kombat 2 or something. It was like he was dressed as Johnny Cage. I showed you the picture when I did my Mortal Kombat episode, or Bloodstorm episode, actually. So what's interesting is the Mortal Kombat people felt maybe that, oh, well, this game copied us and stole away one of our actors and like as a middle finger to us in an ad. Well, we're just going to steal actually an entire component of their game that frankly no one ever played because the game was like barely in any arcades. We're just going to rip off the only good aspect of this game and put it in our game. And they did it beautifully. I mean, Bloodstorm has the weapons, same weapons concept that I'm talking about. It's a 2D fighting game, but it's not nearly as well executed as this. And it's fun that Mortal Kombat decided to take that. And in terms of other like gameplay enhancements in Mortal Kombat 4, some of the other things that they changed are having less damage per combo, less damage per uppercut. So like the matches last longer. They feel more intense because it's not like you're trying to just pull off like a really damaging combo and then sort of jump away from your opponent. It's more like you can't rely on a combo to take away like 44%. I mean, you can. There are those combos in the game, but it's not as easy to get away with that kind of gameplay style. Oh wow, JNNX. No, I didn't hear about that. That makes sense though. I mean, the gore in the newest Mortal Kombat games is like ridiculous. It's like some of the goriest shit ever made. I mean, it's actually pretty bizarre that they can still get away with that. I mean, the fatalities in the new Mortal Kombat games, if you haven't seen them, they're like they like turn your stomach. They're like some of them are actually like so graphic. You're like, holy shit! Like, wow. I wouldn't want my own child playing this kind of thing. Um, yeah, John, magazines. What video game magazines do I remember back in the day? Electronic Gaming Monthly, dude. That was the best one. That was the best one. In terms of the other ones, Game Pro, obviously, but I think I would buy like multiple game magazines when I was a kid. Game Players magazine. I actually got. I had Nintendo Power too, but I stopped subscribing to Nintendo Power when I was like into Super Nintendo. I think that's when I dropped off and got into EGM because EGM was more like covering arcades, you know, and I was like, I wanted to hear about all that shit. Oh wow, Triox, Jesus Christ. Oof. What? Where did you hear that? I want to read about that. Um, I already told you I met Ed Boon. He's a weird guy. Uh, that's a fucked up thing to do, but he's really dedicated to those fatalities. I've actually heard that people there's actual. Oh, interesting. Triox. Oh, please send that to me on Twitter or something because I have not heard that. That doesn't surprise me though because some of the gore in it looks like real gore. It doesn't look like movie gore. Similar to how I was like telling you, there's like that movie Green Room where it's not meant to look like movie gore. It's meant to actually like make you feel sick. Like it's meant to look like real gore. To me, there's like a big difference between that and you know, there's big difference between the two. And most movies, traditionally speaking, go for the movie gore, which is not realistic looking. But when you actually go for like the realistic looking gore, it really triggers something in your brain where you're like, oh wow, this looks almost like too real. It's like, it's kind of like, I can't watch this kind of a thing. Not like it's too scary or gruesome. It's more like it almost has the same effect on you as like seeing real dead bodies or something. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Wow, I totally missed that. It's interesting because no other games are even remotely that gory. Like you would think that because Mortal Kombat and Doom and all these games open the door for that kind of stuff, that a lot of games would be in that vein now. But in fact, most of them are not. I mean, there's like definitely gore in games, but they're over the top. They're not realistic. Catherine, do you know what other game besides Mortal Kombat was the game that made them enforce the rating system? This is trivia for the whole chat. There's one other game besides Mortal Kombat, not nearly as famous, but very controversial. Let me see if you guys guess correctly. I'll give you the first shot, Catherine. You see if you can guess. Yep. Oh, well, someone already guessed before you. Sorry. Yes, it was Night Trap for the Sega CD. Night Trap for the Sega CD. Next time Abby's up here, I'm gonna make her play Night Trap on here for everybody. I prefer Schwarzenegger comedy gore. What's the goriest Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Is it? It's not Commando. Is it Running Man? Maybe Running Man. I mean, Terminator 2 is pretty gory. I'm trying to think, what is his most gory movie? That's kind of I'm stumped. So I'm thinking Total Recall's got some gore. They all have some gore in it, but in terms of like ranking, oh, Predator, you might be right on that one. I think John might be right on Predator. The visceralness of the gore in Predator is pretty brutal compared to some of the other ones. Running Man, maybe it's a tie between Running Man and Predator. Could be. Um, Predator has the scene with all the skinned um, mercenaries hanging from the trees. That scene was really disturbing to me when I first saw that. I probably saw it when I was way too young, but I would say Predator probably. Total Recall's brutal and visceral, but I wouldn't say it's. I really remember it for its gore necessarily. There's a lot of like headshots, you know. See you at the party, Richter. Where he rips off his arms. It's not really that gory though. It's just more hilarious, honestly. Have you guys seen the movie Kindergarten Cop lately? Here's what's weird about Kindergarten Cop. It's a very well written movie. Like you wouldn't expect a movie like that to actually have like a good screenplay. So one of the first things I noticed while watching it recently was actually this movie's like surprisingly well written for such a shitty, stupid concept. Another weird thing about it is that it's like, from what I understand about it, it's like was made for adults. It's an R movie. I think it's rated R. So the subplot in the movie is not that he's not just a cop who happens to be a kindergarten teacher. He's an undercover cop because I guess one of the children in the class, his father is some kind of convict on the run, and it's got like a hard R 80s action vibe to it, and it's directed by Ivan Reitman, the director of Ghostbusters. I mean, it doesn't date well, but it dates better than, I mean, it's fascinating to watch actually. Like I would definitely watch it just to see how bizarre it is and how they don't make movies like that at all anymore. And what I mean is movies that are tonally have like they're part comedy and then like part like serious hard R like action drama. It's like a mashup. It's not even like an action hard R comedy with comedy parts, like what's the movie 21 Jump Street? It's more like they're mashing up two different movies and tones together, and that's very odd. And they used to do that a lot more in like the 80s. Does it date better than Home Alone? Um, I don't know. I mean, because Home Alone is like, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I have to admit, like, I could still throw Home Alone on. That movie, uh, I don't know if it's dated. It's just a weird movie. Like, I actually kind of stands the test of time because it's such a bizarre concept that a very smart, clever child is basically running two burglars through a series of violent booby traps. I mean, it's kind of a neat concept. I'm not gonna lie. I could see why people think about Home Alone all the time. Like I even think a movie like Weekend at Bernie's. That movie is fucking good. Like you might have like seen it in the 80s and thought it was like a pile of shit or it was just like a waste, but um, Weekend at Bernie's is actually extremely well done, well executed film, and it's very dark. What about Bob? Oh, what about Bob's a masterpiece? If you talk about 90s, late 80s comedies, you can't talk about them without mentioning What About Bob because What About Bob is kind of like the pinnacle of that era. Richard Dreyfuss in that movie is incredible. You guys ever seen Richard Dreyfuss like cuz he's like he like retired from movies for some reason and he was in the movie W playing Dick Cheney after like a long time of not being in movies at all. And there's a really funny The View appearance with Richard Dreyfuss after that movie came out. And they're just like casually asking him, like any talk show appearance asking about a movie is the most like superficial crap ever. It's like, oh, so what was it like meeting so and so? What was it like doing this? What was it like doing that? What was it like being on the set with Oliver Stone? What was it like working with Oliver Stone? Well, his answer was, well, it was basically like working with Hitler. And they were just like, huh? Like, wait, what? Like, no, you don't mean that. And he's like, yeah, Oliver Stone is like a little Hitler. And he just like doubles down for the rest of the interview and like makes things hella awkward. And it's just amazing that he like uttered that on the promotional tour that he believes Oliver Stone is Hitler. Like blurting it out on the during like the promo tour. Amazing. Krippendorf's tribe, man. Krippendorf's tribe where him and his don't they actually don't doesn't he like fuck his wife in Krippendorf's tribe with all like the tribal makeup and paint on and then like makes it into the exhibit or something? And that's like supposed to be like a heartwarming conclusion of the movie. Like they find that they can't help but like fuck or it's I just remember it was very unsettling and made me feel weird. Not because of the sex stuff, just because it was like a really weird pile of shit of a movie. Um, Remember the gods must be crazy. So there was like a lot of like there were several movies that were like about tribal peoples that were supposed to be comedies, and those were two of them. There was two, I think. The gods must be crazy, like one and two. Which movie? God's Must Be Crazy? Oh God, Catherine, you and me both. I like it still actually makes me sad when I think about John Candy. It's weird. If I think about any celebrity who I remember from my childhood or my entire life, he is the one that probably died like the earliest in my life that I still get legit sad about when I think about. And like just thinking about what his potential could have been. I mean, and when you hear stories about him, like in real life, he's apparently was one of the nicest celebrities in the world. Like he would just talk to strangers for hours. Um, he would he would talk like like other celebrities like treat their drivers like shit, their help. Everybody that like worked around John Candy remembers him being like the warmest, most jolly person ever. And that's honestly rare in Hollywood to hear about that. I mean, I've told you stories on here that Bill Murray was a monster on set of Scrooged. He didn't talk to anybody in between takes. He was a total piece of shit. He was such a narcissistic nut job. Ghostbusters almost didn't get made. They had to rewrite the part in Ghostbusters that they wrote for John Belushi, their dead friend. And they were like, "Hey, we want you to play this," and he was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And he disappears to narcissistically make an Oscar bait movie in the French Alps for like 8 months, and no one knew where he was. No one could get a hold of him. They're like, "God damn it, he's not going to show up for this." And like just totally when they were expecting Bill Murray to fully pull out of the project, he showed up like the day before they were supposed to start shooting. And he acted like he just did not want to be there at all. Like the first 2 weeks of the Ghostbusters shoot, if you hear people talking about it, they were like regretting even writing the part for Bill Murray. Because they were super mad that he was uncontactable and disappeared for almost a year. And he also delayed Ghostbusters by doing that. It wasn't just that, he literally made them wait. So, like, I know a lot of people think, Murray is this awesome dude now because he crashes college parties and stuff. But if you really look into his reputation, he was one of the biggest asshole, monster narcissists in Hollywood. He really thought he was like the biggest celebrity in the 1980s. Like that's how he saw himself, like the most important celebrity. So when I think of someone like John Candy who died before his time and what potential he could have had afterwards, it's like soul crushingly sad to me of how nice of a person he was. Just the iconic roles he played in the movies that he was in. And also like people sort of overlook his own comedy vehicles too. Like he had, Delirious. It's kind of like John Candy's Groundhog Day. I mean, it's not Groundhog Day. It's not the plot, but it's John Candy is stuck in a soap opera that he was originally the writer of. It's like now, and he wakes up after getting hit in the head, and he's now like inside the soap opera. There's another kind of like heartwarming movie he was in called Only the Lonely. I think my mom actually was into these movies when I was a kid because I remember watching them when I was like fairly young. She must have rented them or something. But I always thought John Candy was fantastic at. He really did seem like he could effortlessly switch into like being serious and really funny, and it was believable. It didn't seem forced. I mean, Uncle Buck is a good example of that acting style. Go back though, if you love John Candy in movies, go back and watch him in SCTV. He's a genius in that. And Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, dude. Yeah. Like when I was little when I saw that movie, it was good. There were some sad parts of it, but as an adult, I'm like, this movie's a tearjerker. like John Candy is a heartbreaking, sad, extremely sad person, and yeah, it hits you hard. Like if you watch that movie from beginning to end, um, and you really focus on it like that, yeah, fantastic in JFK too. Fantastic. He plays the lawyer for Oswald too. Like the guy he's based on. Oh, I forgot his name. He's like a beatnik lawyer, and he was like famous, and he's a really weird guy. And the actual video footage of him is really strange. That whole aspect of the JFK trial is very, very strange. Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, thinking about John Candy, it like it legit makes me sad because even just like remembering all his movies. Yeah, Brewster's Millions. Although Brewster's Millions I didn't love because I feel like Stripes and Brewster's Millions, John Candy's role in it was like the stupid, overweight kind of clown character. He was almost made to be more of a cartoon. So I really appreciated the roles he got later that really like humanized him and made him seem like this, this guy with a big heart who was like, like he played that role like several times in different movies. So it wasn't just Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. It was Only the Lonely. He's kind of playing a similar. Is not as pathetic in that movie. Um, Also, Canadian Bacon. That's kind of an interesting movie where he plays like a redneck conservative guy who's going to like invade Canada. I think that might actually be his last movie, and it's directed by Michael Moore. Janet X. No, I did know it was a remake, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised about that. When's the last time you guys actually saw a decent comedy, like a new one? It's been a while for me. I finally saw the movie. Lori finally got me to watch What We Do in the Shadows, the original Taika Waititi film, which is basically just a mockumentary about vampires living together in modern times, and it was fucking great. It's really really funny. If you guys haven't seen that, um, go check it out. I For some reason I slept on it for a while, and I only got into the show recently because Lori's been watching it. So there's a whole other show that's like a spin-off from it. But the movie itself is fantastic. Catherine, I Eric Andre's new movie actually came out and then was removed from the internet. So from what I've been told, it's very easy to torrent right now. So why don't you DM me or contact me afterwards if you don't know where to get it, and I'll make sure to send you a link because I already downloaded it. I just haven't watched it. But I've been curious about it. Jan and X, the TV show's great. It's not. It's different, totally different characters, which is great. It's not even trying to be like the same characters in the movie, and I think that's what really works for it. Jojo Rabbit. Yeah, I saw Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit was okay. Um, I I didn't love it as much as I was hoping I would. I mean, Taika Waititi. I've only really seen like three of his things, so um, I'd say the only one I really loved is What We Do in the Shadows. Thor Ragnarok was kind of a misfire for me. I appreciated aspects of it, but I didn't. I was not as into it as other people were. Yes, JNNX. It's in the same universe with different characters. And it takes place not in New Zealand, but in the United States, in Staten Island. Nice, Tom. Tom, I was actually going to ask you. I wanted to get a hold of you before this episode. I didn't have a chance to, but um, I cannot, for the life of me, get Mortal Kombat 4 working well on a PC. I tried it on every single computer I have in my house on MAME, and it still doesn't run very well. And on top of that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think MAME ever fixed the holes. There's like actual visible holes in the polygon models of the characters. So even if it was working, up to speed properly, it still seems like the graphic errors haven't been fixed, which is frustrating. So I was kind of hoping that someone would have modded Mortal Kombat Gold and just made it into like a Mortal Kombat 4 classic mode version. So sadly, it doesn't seem like there really is a really good way to play Mortal Kombat 4 at home. The PC version is actually probably the closest thing. Maybe the PC version, but it still doesn't really look like the arcade version. The arcade, the Zeus chip, the Midway Zeus chip, it just has like a unique, weird look to the 3D acceleration on it. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the holes are fixed. Tom, let me know what version of MAME you were using. That's cool. You're playing it right now, though. Yeah, let me get into some of it because I didn't really explain what this game is. So Mortal Kombat Gold was sort of like Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the home releases, in so far as that it was made by a third-party company, not by Midway, that they added additions to the game. The only difference is this game, Mortal Kombat Gold, from what I understand, there were several additions that they added in it that the original game programmers meant to add. They just didn't do it. So they actually meant to add Kung Lao and some other fighters in the game. They just didn't have a chance to actually add it all in. So, and sadly, you can tell how rushed Mortal Kombat 4 was because the actual first revision, the first version of Mortal Kombat 4 that was out in arcades, and I remember playing that. I remember seeing this too. It was pretty disappointing. It was basically like a beta version of the game. It was very, very unfinished. I don't even think most of the characters, I think only some of the characters were available. In terms of Mortal Kombat Gold, though, I mean, what do you think about it as a game, Tom? Because it's better in some ways than 4, but it's also like more unbalanced than 4. It seems like. So, I don't know. I mean, you can like there's some weapons and some combos and things in Gold where they're like very, very unfair and unbalanced. It just doesn't seem like they fixed them. Same with Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So I feel like Mortal Kombat Gold and Mortal Kombat Trilogy would actually be great games if they actually fixed that stuff in it, or if someone figured out a way to mod them both. I agree with you, Tom. Yeah, I do too. It's just too bad that I couldn't get it working. So we're stuck with Gold, but we got some interesting options with Gold to play around with. Of course, I got to pick my boy. Ooh, the Ahmet. Please show me the Alan Moore takedown of Stan Lee. Alan Moore was a Jack Kirby guy, obviously. And I have to admit, that's where I got my Jack Kirby is better than Stan Lee stuff from, too. Is like, I just sort of copied Alan Moore because I was like, well, if Alan Moore thinks this, then obviously I do, too. I didn't understand why until much later. Until like, I actually like got into Jack Kirby's work and stuff. I don't want to know about Alan Moore taking down Stan Lee. Do you guys know about the Grant Morrison Alan Moore feud? It's kind of interesting. It's a long-running feud where like they barely have mentioned or acknowledged each other's existence, and the only times they really have has been negatively. And Grant Morrison arguably kind of took the throne away from Alan Moore at DC in terms of like their weirdest, you know, most sort of considered like their weirdest, most interesting writer who writes weird shit, you know, for their superhero stuff. Oh, game is too quiet? Is it actually like, can you guys hear it at all? Let me make sure it's actually, you're hearing it. Very low. Okay. Weird. Shouldn't be that low. I'm going to turn it all the way up, though. So tell me if this is too high now. Is that better? Oh, shit. Oh, no, she killed me. I lost my first match. That's okay now? Okay. LNF, yeah, I really like those issues of JLA, for sure. Some of his best work. Actually, that I personally read. I think Final Crisis and his run on JLA in general are some of the better things that I've read of his.
Round one. Fight.
Oh, nice. Nice. So you see the weapon. Oh, wait. I forgot. If it goes off into 3D space, I don't think I can pick it up unless I... Tom, this is a question I was confused about. Or this is just something I was confused about. I haven't played MK4 in so long. Was there a separate... There wasn't a separate button in the arcade to go 3D, right? In Mortal Kombat 4? I'm confusing that with War Gods, I think. There's just... I think it's just... Is it down, down, run? Or is it... How do you actually go into 3D space and move out of the way? Like, what's the actual... Forget. Has anybody here not even seen Mortal Kombat 4 before? Or Mortal Kombat Gold? I'm curious what you guys think of it.
Fight.
Huh. Huh.
Wins. Flawless victory. Round two. Fight.
Catherine, what do you think of it? Seen it for the first time.
Well done. Excellent. Finish him.
Ah, shit. I don't know what Sub-Zero fatalities are in here.
Round one. Fight.
Oh, wow. It came with a bunch of Dreamcast, or like bundled. That's interesting. That makes sense, though. I mean, in terms of like a two-player game, it's definitely one of the better ones for Dreamcast. It's too bad it was really the only proper release it got. I don't even think they got a release on PS2 or anything. Because by that time, Mortal Kombat 4 was... People didn't like it anymore. Didn't care for it anymore. Shit. Here, you know what? I gotta do something. I gotta change my controls.
Round 2. Fight.
I'm gonna change my controls here. This is a new Dreamcast emulator I got called Red Dream. It's pretty solid. It's the best one I've actually tried so far for Windows. Jidzoid, you're right, but there is a. It's not a button. You could dodge things. So in Mortal Kombat 4, you can move out of the way of projectiles or move around the stage to get weapons or objects on the ground. But you can't move like consistently. You can just like sort of slide and slide and slide like on 3D access. And I forgot how to do it. I mean, I think it's there's an actual button, I'm pretty sure. I think that's... Let's try this. Yes. Okay, so now I have run as my... Instead of the other finger trigger, it's the second trigger on the right side. It's much easier for me. Yeah, okay. Shit. Shit! No, Oz, we're not, luckily. I know multiple people who are, though. Yeah, L and F, I agree with you. I would have really actually liked... I think what I would really like is for someone to remake Mortal Kombat 4 in the style of... Let me do some practice. In the style of Mortal Kombat 3. So like all the same sprites, all the same characters, but digitized. Okay, so I'm in practice mode now, or there's like no consequences, infinite life. So, oh, I'm Katana though. Oh, I didn't mean to be Katana. Okay, let's see what her show moves list. Oh, I guess it's the same as in the original. Pretty much. Looks mostly the same. Oh, wait a second. The wave punch is down back, low punch? Oh no, there it is. I love how Fujin's weapon shoots shit. It's so weird. How do I pick that shit up? Yeah, I got your weapon, motherfucker. Oh, son of a bitch. So, what do you guys suggest if you get invited on someone's podcast? Or what do you guys suggest This has actually happened to me 3 times in the past few months, and I'm not a pushy person. Maybe I used to be in the past, but like it's more difficult for me now to like remind people of things or things like that. But what would you guys do if you're in this situation? If you got invited on someone's podcast, sort of, by the person saying, you should come on the podcast. And then, like a month passes or several months pass and then nothing materializes. Do you just sort of at that point, you assume you're probably in the rotation? Or would you write it off and think to yourself, oh, it's probably, not going to happen? Or maybe it'll happen, but, when is it going to happen? Sort of like that feeling of like wondering, just sort of wondering when. Like, where would you guys be with that?
The war is now being fought once again. Only this time, it can be won by mortals.
Gently remind them. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just torn about it. The only time I invite people on my podcast is when I'm like 100% sure and committed to having them on. LNF. I think LNF hit on how I'm dealing with it. So in my case, LNF, I've already sent people messages, I think, and then sort of just told myself in my mind, well, maybe it's not going to happen, but I'll send a follow-up message anyways. And that's sort of where I leave it in my mind.
The greatest warrior is MJ.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to go on Burmes's show soon. If it's something to talk about like QAnon, I'd feel a lot better about it. I don't think him and I see that we have very different positions on things like BLM and that whole thing. But I think on QAnon we can agree, or I think he mostly agrees with my take on QAnon. Joe, wouldn't that be funny if I was talking about Joe Rogan? Did you guys, speaking of that, did you guys see that video of Dave Rubin saying that he doesn't know what happened? He keeps trying to contact. He's sent like 100 emails or something to Joe's people, and Joe hasn't responded. I mean, how embarrassing was that for him to go public with? That was, oof. I'm almost like cringing now. I'm getting like skin crawly feelings from how bad that was to watch. I like Nina. Getting on Rogan is like winning the podcast lottery now. I mean, I would say if you're strategic enough about it, and you're savvy, because it's okay. So a lot of people who come on Joe Rogan's show don't necessarily have like a huge platform already. I'm trying to think of a couple examples, like Brett Weinstein example when he first went on. Thaddeus Russell example, for example, when he first went on. I feel that their audience dramatically grew instantaneously as a result on going on Joe Rogan. Especially Brett Weinstein. Thaddeus Russell's, he kind of almost gained some haters too via that, which was interesting because he went on a really interesting rant about gender, which I recommend you go watch. Him arguing with Joe Rogan about gender. It's very interesting. Yeah, go check out Door's thing, man. If you need to go watch someone lay the boot into Bernie, go for it. I'm good. I'm completely comfortable now saying, and I don't know if I said it on here already, but saying that the Hill Rising is some kind of op. 100%. There was something else I wanted to talk about. What was it? Forget. What the hell was it? Yeah, John, I think the Hill is bad. The Hill Rising is really bad. I also think that woman Kim Iverson is coming from that same op paradigm. I'm not saying that these people are plants or they're ops. Well, I think Sagar Anjeti 100% is a plant and he is an op. I'm not going to lie about that. Iverson, the Hill Rising, Tucker, Caitlin Johnstone. Some of these other people seem like they're more just participating either willingly or maybe involuntarily in some kind of op. So, I don't know. The Hill Rising is very much an op, says JNNX. Yes. Yes. I'm not pronouncing his name wrong to be funny. I actually probably... How would you actually pronounce his name? Is it Sagar?
Thousands of years ago, in a battle with the fallen elder god known as Shinnok,
Also, let me be fully honest here.
civilization. To rid all of Shinnok's menace, I waged a war
Probably wouldn't have been good if Shahid Buttar came on Main Politics. Because I was going to ask him some challenging questions. I probably was going to bring up the EFF stuff that Yasha Levine ended up bringing up in his article that came out. So, and I was getting annoyed at the fact that he was reneged basically on the invitation. He flaked on the invitation, and I let it go. And I thought, okay, he's probably busy. He's important. He's running against Nancy Pelosi. But definitely check out that article by Yasha Levine. I think I kind of tend to agree with it. It may be vicious, but sometimes you need that because him and Mark Ames were some of the first two people on the left to really blast open the door on Glenn Greenwald, and it was vicious, and it needed to be, I think. But in terms of Shahid, I don't really have much to say about it except that I don't really find much to disagree with in Yasha's article, to be completely honest. But it would have been interesting to be able to get him out here to ask him some challenging questions, because if you see some of the reactions to Yasha's article, almost everybody in the scene, and I know some of these people, not personally, but like I follow them on Twitter. You know, we have mutual friends, some of them. Like they're all just running to his defense and saying like, Yasha, you're totally wrong. You know, you usually do good work, but you're totally wrong on this. Don't do this. don't do this, and it's like, I think that reveals that. And you even see a lot of them saying like, no, we know Shahid. Like, he comes to all our meetings and stuff. Like, of course this is not true and stuff. It's like, he didn't come to the Bay Area to like reach out to the community. He came here to run against Nancy Pelosi. And that's pretty evident. So, the term carpetbagger is a pejorative term, but that is what that's what kind of campaign it is. So, I don't know. Yeah, furious psyop. Yeah. Well, you saw a lot of smart Bernie people defending Bernie too. I mean, in fairness, I would say Bernie people in general were less defensive of Bernie than Tulsi people were of Tulsi. In general, but there was definitely some Bernie people who gave him way too much slack on stuff. I mean, obviously, but there was definitely people defending stupid shit he said too. Definitely. Post-March. I mean, I don't know if it's a matter of smarts or not. It's just, I just think people get sucked into these things, So I don't know.
I was responsible for the death of an entire civilization. To rid all realms of Shinnok's menace, I waged a war that plunged the earth into centuries of darkness and banished.
Oh, speaking of which, I think I agreed to go on someone's podcast today at 7. Let me check my DMs really quick. This is like the most casual JO stream ever. Hold on a second. Maybe it was Friday. Okay, yeah, it's not today. Good. I mean, doing all this kind of stuff is fun, but sometimes I definitely get tired of talking too long. Even if I have nothing to say. I always saw Bernie as a lesser of two evils. And even though that's not a paradigm I've subscribed to, it's just, he was better than Trump. He was better than the other people running in the primary. That's not a very high bar. It's a low bar. But that's how I felt. And I really never saw him as anything more impressive or powerful than that. I don't know, though. I mean, I do think there's going to be a really crazy reckoning, correction, whatever you want to call it, in the next year or so, moving forward. I know that I was really alarmist about COVID when it first started, specifically about the virus itself, that I really was very, very scared of it. And I'm still worried about it, but I'm definitely like, if I listen back to my Media Roots episode about it, I'm like, holy shit. Like I was really in a much more heightened state mentally back then than I am now. But I think what's really real, and that's not, we haven't really felt it yet, is going to be like another depression. I just don't see a way around it. With this much unemployment, so many businesses already closed down. I don't see how that's not going to happen. So, in terms of like what this country's going to look like in a year from now, I just feel like the election will almost seem like partly irrelevant or something. Because we already know Biden's not going to put in universal health care. If there was some kind of desperation, like, say like by the election, tons of people are starving, like it's just like an increase in people not being able to eat, homelessness explodes, people on the streets. I mean, some giant statistical measurable explosion of that. I don't think all Biden could do, all either candidate could really do at that point to try to win votes is to come up with very clear, specific things to get people out of that state. So either universal basic income, cutting people checks, money, free healthcare. That's like literally it. If things are get that desperate. But then there's obviously like the other stupid bullshit. Like they could just keep beating the culture war drum and the China drum leading into the election. So maybe that's naive of me to think that real issues might be the only thing that can win these candidates' votes. That's actually probably really naive. Who knows what stupid shit they're going to pull out for the election. But yeah, I just think America's never going to come back from this fully. Even if we do economically and like things stabilize, the whole world now knows there's no denying the fact that America is on its last legs. There's no denying the fact that there is, like, maybe there were some countries that maybe like, oh yeah, we'll work with America. We'll act like they're on the same level of us in terms of like getting their shit together. But I feel like honestly moving forward, it's not just Trump that like ruined America's reputation or whatever people like to say. It's this situation. It's the government's handling of this crisis specifically. And all the different governments. I mean, it's a total nightmare. It's like there's nobody in the world that can convince any country moving forward that America had their shit together, knew what they were doing. I don't know. It's just, so I actually think that's good in some ways, because not for us here, but for the world, because then people won't bother, like maybe they should keep a travel ban in place for Americans indefinitely going to Europe. Why not? There's an interesting, occasionally I will come across interesting deconstructions of people's socialist or Marxist views from people who are not socialist or Marxist in ways that are actually like very interesting and insightful to listen to. And a lot of the sort of knee-jerk anti-socialism stuff that I think Thaddeus Russell dabbles in that's not like some of the least favorite stuff that he does as an analyst. And even some of his stuff on race it bothers me, but I think he's very smart in other areas. But this conversation with him, Thaddeus Russell, and Doug Henwood, I think is worth checking out, because Doug's a really smart guy. He's been around for a long time. He's he had involvement in political movements going back, to times when I was just a kid. So, and I wasn't even born yet. So I think it's really interesting to hear his perspective. And from listening to the whole thing, it was interesting because I think Thaddeus maybe, I don't know if his goal was to like debunk some of his points or whatever, but it turned into like a much more nuanced and I don't know, just really interesting, sort of revealing discussion in terms of what both of their ideas are and sort of where both of their heads are at. Much more, just a lot of these performative people, who you just use a lot of talking points, and I don't know. Like, this felt very different from that, and it was refreshing to listen to. It's probably what a lot of people think that they're actually getting out of Joe Rogan. A lot of people, when I see comments about the Joe Rogan podcast, that's what they say. They're like, oh man, this is, You can't get like a discussion this nuanced or like long form or but this felt genuinely like that to me. And I think it's about an hour and a half long, maybe 2 hours long. It's on YouTube. I'll have to check out Michael Parenti's take later, but I'll make sure to save that. Oh, it's from your YouTube channel. Sweet. Of course. I think I'm going to get into some more MK4 here. If you guys don't mind. I'm going to cheat, though. I love the sounds in this game too. Sounds and the music I think are really great in this game. Boy again. Let's go easy.
Round one. Fight.
Nice. Oh shit. Oh, why is it all choppy like that? Maybe this emulator's not that good after all. You son of a bitch.
Wins. Round two. Fight.
Oh, suck. Fuck. I love that teleport because it's a combo starter like Kung Lao's is in MK3. Beautiful. Only a couple characters have that kind of combo starter where you teleport and go to the other side, and it's very, very nice. Oh, let's speak of the devil. There he is. So Kung Lao was not in the original Mortal Kombat 4. He's an upgraded character just for Mortal Kombat Gold. Reiko was a character. Jesus. Oh, I was trying to grab his weapon.
Round two. Fight.
Nice. Shock. Fuck, fuck, fuck. No, it sounds like the sound's crackling. Is it? Did it stop? Oh, shit.
Round one. Fight.
Fucking weapon. Love it.
Round two. Fight.
Oh no, it's choppy again. Why? Oh, let's stop. There's a code in this game where you can just do one button fatalities.
Round 1.
Which Virtue Fighter do you like the best, Catherine? I think I like Virtue Fighter 3. Actually, the crossover game Fighters Mega Mix is my favorite. That's a cross between Virtue Fighter, Sonic Fighters, and Fighting Vipers, which is another 3D. Ah, shit. Get my ass, Quan Chi. Son of a bitch!
Wins. Round 2. Fight.
I'm not really a Tekken fan personally. I appreciate it as a game, but to me it changed fighting games too much away from the sort of old school vibe that I like. I kind of almost resent how much influence Tekken had, actually, if I'm being honest. Shit. Got me. I can't remember what Virtue Fighter 4 is like.
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, I had some friends who were really into Samurai Showdown. Me too, Soul Man. I do have a special place in my heart. If I was gonna rank my top 5 fighting game franchises, so Samurai Showdown would probably be like number 2 or 3, actually, easily. Very special for me too. Very special.
Sub-Zero wins. Round 2. Fight.
Have you ever played the terrible 3D Samurai Showdowns?
Finish him. Sub-Zero wins.
Karate Champ. I've actually never played that. I know that's supposed to be the original fighting game. I'll play it on here sometime. We'll check that one out together. The only thing I don't love about Mortal Kombat Gold is that they have some of the same sounds, vocal, like getting hit sounds as they do from Mortal Kombat 3.
Fight.
What kind of takes away from all the original sound they add to Mortal Kombat 4. It's all new sound in the original Mortal Kombat 4, and then in Mortal Kombat Gold they just added back stuff from, you know, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and it's kind of like, why'd you do that? Just sort of cheapens it. Oh, I forgot you could do that.
Finish her.
I forgot the weapon itself freezes you.
Round 1. Fight.
I'll play some of the Tekken games on here sometime just to like, because I know so many people here are fans of it. I'm just gonna do awful at it. If you think I'm awful at other games, you should see me on Tekken. I'll fucking get my ass destroyed. Gore doesn't fuck around in this one, does he? Oh shit. Son of a bitch. Oh, fuck. It's like a flawless. Oh, son of a bitch. Bloody Roar, yeah. I actually just downloaded that for a PlayStation emulation. I was thinking of playing that on here. I remember for some reason enjoying Bloody Roar more than Tekken and Soul Calibur. I don't know why, but I do remember that. I can't remember what it was about it. I also liked Fighting Vipers too, better than Virtue Fighter. and Rival Schools. You guys remember that? That was a Capcom 3D fighter that played like Street Fighter. So I like, those are the kind of 3D fighters I like. The ones that didn't feel realistic at all were my favorite. Oh wow. Took him out. Took his ass out pretty easily there. Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh shit. Oh no! Oh! Close. Cat, or wait. Whoever just said that, I just played Street Fighter Alpha on here, and I don't know why I really ended up shitting on it a lot. It was just like a shit talking session. I even talked about how the backgrounds looked like shit and stuff. I don't know why I hated on it so much. I played the Japanese version actually, Street Fighter Alpha. Not, I mean, sorry, Street Fighter Zero, not Street Fighter Alpha. I'm a Street Fighter 3 guy. I really like Street Fighter 3. Not as much the Alpha series. Oh, son of a bitch. Let's see. Who's cheap? Who's cheap as fuck that I can just like destroy Goro with? I feel like Raiden is. But they changed his like moves, I think, on this. He doesn't have the same moves or something. Let me see. What are his moves? Oh yeah, I can't remember what his actual... They switched around what his special moves are on this one. Dumbass, I totally forget. Fuck. Fuck! Terrible. I'll try it. I mean, I feel like I did pretty well with Scorpion the first time I played him, and then I got my ass kicked. Oh shit. Fuck. It's a quarter of my fucking life bar, dude. Son of a bitch, Goro. Bastard. Ouch. The actual playable version of this is a code where you can play as Goro in this, and it's actually quite playable compared to other Mortal Kombat games where you can play as the boss character, meaning Mortal Kombat Trilogy lets you, but, you know, Mortal Kombat Trilogy is just like the sprite from the original. You can play as Kentaro too, but it has like no modifications done to it. It's basically the same, basically the exact same moves you can, you know, Goro can do. This one is cool because he actually can like jump, kick, and move around just like any other character. So his fluidity in terms of them actually playing as him as a bonus character is pretty fun. It's just really, really unfair because you can destroy any player with him. Look how much damage he fucking takes off. It's fun to play him against the computer, actually, though. I remember that. And I think you can even do Goro versus Goro with the code. Alright. I'm gonna give it a few more tries before I totally give up. Let's try this motherfucker. He was reinserted. He was not in the original Mortal Kombat 4, Cyrax. Jesus. No. Oh. Shit. Oh my god. The ground stomp thing is just like, it seems like it takes up the hitbox for it takes up half the screen. It's so fucked up. Oh Jesus Christ. There's like no way to get away from that. Bummer. Not giving up yet though. Not completely. Let's give Sub-Zero a try. Well, I'm at the boss character. I mean, and I suck. There's a very easy setting, so I guess easy is almost kind of like, it's not really actually easy. There's a very easy setting that I did not choose. Oh, fuck. The weapon's not even useful right on him. Oh, I guess it is. Kind of. Nope. Oh, dude. Oh shit, he got me. Done. Okay. Son of a bitch. Okay, I wonder if I just keep spamming him the flying kick. Nope. I can't. Son of a bitch! Alright. Shit! Oh no. All right. All right. Let's see. I might as well try Scorpion again. He seemed good against Goro.
Round 1. Fight.
Son of a bitch. Dude, the ground stomp is just... If I could just get him to stop doing that shit. Oh, God. What? That was a weird glitch. Nuts. I'm gonna keep going. Oh God, I only have one continue. That was it. That was it, guys. Okay, this is my last try. Okay.
Sub-Zero. Round 1. Fight.
Don't tell me this actually work. Oh shit. Alright. Let's see. Oh, that button got stuck. What the hell? Oh no. Shit. Wait, why isn't this slide working anymore? Oh no. Yes. Oh, finally. I don't even know how hard the second boss is, but I know that they didn't... The reason I know this game's unfinished is because these motherfuckers... This guy is supposed to be able to morph into anybody, Shinnok, but he just stays the same looking throughout the match. And I don't know if they ever, like, you know, went any further with it and any... I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they just couldn't figure out how to do it. Shit. No. Fuck. Yes.
Round 2. Fight.
Shit. Shit. Ah. Oh. Okay.
Fight.
Oh shit. No! Boom. Well, I'm like super sweaty now. I'm like trying to beat a video game so hard. Oh shit. Great.
The battle is finished.
Oh, this
Your
is so
quest
bad.
for
Check this out.
vengeance is over, Scorpion.
These
You
engines.
cannot kill a dead man. You have defeated my physical form, but my soul is eternal. You will pay for the massacre of my clan and family.
Sub-Zero, like your brother before you, you have served my purposes well. I serve no one, not the Lin Kuei, and not you. Scorpion agreed to fight for us in exchange for freedom from
So
the Netherrealm. A deal I had no intention of fulfilling. By killing him, you saved us the trouble. Both you and Scorpion were pawns for Shinnok. Scorpion!
Our battle is finished. You are
Pretty
now
good.
freed from my curse. Live well, Lin Kuei warrior.
Pretty cool. Ed Boon. Was John Tobias even part of this game? Let's see. I don't think he was. No, he was. Okay. So I guess John Tobias just wasn't part of the rest of the team. I mean, from 5 on. Well, I guess we'll leave on that note, the triumphant note. Thank you everybody for joining me on episode 75 of MAME Politics, Mortal Kombat Gold. It was fun, and we'll do it again on Monday. And maybe I'll shove in another 2-player episode in between now and Monday, potentially. Don't want to make any promises, but yeah, thanks everybody. And if you want to get access to all of the previously aired episodes of MAME Politics after they're done streaming, you can get access to them by becoming a Patreon subscriber of mine at patreon.com/Robbie Martin. Thank you. Bye.